So you're here. Good. I was hoping for company. You see, I've got stories, dark ones, chilling ones, the kind that keep you up at night. Mythical creatures, curses, horrors you can't escape. Shall we begin? Don't worry, I won't bite. Much.
Last time, Nezha defied fate. Now his battle is far from over. Join us as we continue his extraordinary story. Nezha's soul drifted through endless darkness, weightless and cold. Everything felt distant, as if he no longer belonged to the world. He had once been a celestial warrior, a hero, but now he was nothing more than a lost spirit, fading into nothingness. Then, suddenly, a golden light pierced the void. Warmth wrapped around him like an invisible force, gently pulling him from the abyss. The light carried him across vast distances, past the clouds, toward a towering mountain surrounded by swirling mist. This was Kunlun Mountain, the sacred land of the immortals. At its peak, a lone figure sat in quiet meditation, dressed in flowing white robes, his long beard drifting in the breeze. This was Taiyi Zhenren, Nezha's master. Taiyi Zhenren slowly opened his eyes. Seeing Nezha's weakened soul before him, he let out a deep sigh. Nezha, your journey is not over yet. With a flick of his sleeve, a brilliant lotus flower bloomed in the air before him. Its petals were pure white, glowing with divine energy, pulsing with life itself. He raised his hand, his voice echoing through the mountain. Let the lotus form your bones, let sacred fire become your blood, and let the breath of heaven awaken your soul. The moment he spoke, the lotus shone with blinding light. The sky trembled, and the entire mountain seemed to hum with power. Inside the lotus, Nezha felt something shift. His spirit, once broken, began to mend. A warmth spread through him, a powerful energy fusing with his essence. He felt lighter, stronger, reborn. Then, boom! The lotus burst apart, sending waves of golden light in every direction. And from its center, Nezha emerged. His body was no longer made of mortal flesh. It was crafted from pure lotus essence, his blood burning with celestial fire. His limbs felt weightless yet powerful, his entire being pulsing with newfound strength. He clenched his fists, feeling the energy coursing through him. A smirk curled on his lips. Ha! So this is what it feels like. I'm back. Just as he was about to step down from Kunlun Mountain, a golden light streaked across the sky. It crashed into the ground before him with a thunderous force. The air crackled with divine power, and a familiar, commanding voice rang out. Nezha! How dare you return? Nezha narrowed his eyes as the dust settled. Standing before him, clad in gleaming golden armor, his expression as cold as steel, was a man he once called Father. Jing, the pagoda-bearing heavenly king. Behind him, celestial warriors stood in formation, weapons drawn. Nezha's smirk faded. His grip tightened around his spear. The battle was inevitable. The wind howled across Kunlun Mountain. Nezha stood with his flaming wheels spinning beneath him, the fire-tipped spear resting lightly in his grip. His eyes locked onto the man before him, Jing, the father who had once abandoned him, now standing as his executioner. Jing's golden armor shimmered under the sky, his expression unreadable. In his hand, the demon-suppressing pagoda pulsed with divine energy. His voice was heavy with authority. Nezha, you defied the heavens, slaughtered the dragon prince, and now you have returned against fate's will. You must be destroyed. Nezha let out a dry, bitter laugh. Destroyed? That's rich coming from you. You abandoned me once, let me die without a second thought. Now you stand before me as heaven's loyal dog, pretending to uphold justice? His grip tightened around his spear. Let's see if you have the strength to erase me this time. Before his words had even faded, Nezha shot forward. His flaming wheels ignited, his body becoming a streak of fire as he lunged at Jing. His spear pierced through the air, aimed straight for his father's chest. Clang! Li Jing swung the pagoda, blocking the strike just in time. Sparks erupted as divine power clashed against raging fire. The sheer force of the impact sent shockwaves rippling through the sky. Nezha didn't hesitate. With a flick of his wrist, the red silk ribbon shot out like a serpent, aiming for Li Jing's throat. Li Jing twisted, dodging at the last moment, then countered with a powerful slash from his demon sealing sword. Nezha barely managed to block, his spear vibrating from the impact. The two clashed furiously, fire against light, raw power against divine discipline. For hundreds of strikes, neither gained the upper hand. Then, two streaks of golden light cut through the sky, landing between them. Enough! Nezha skidded to a stop, his gaze snapping toward the new arrivals. Two men stood before him, clad in celestial robes, their faces familiar yet solemn. Jinja and Muja, his older brothers. Jinja's voice was firm, his brows furrowed. Nezha, stop this madness. Nezha's grip on his spear tightened. Are you here to kill me too? Muja exhaled slowly. Brother, the Jade Emperor has given the order. If you continue resisting, you'll be hunted down by all of heaven. Nezha's eyes burned with rage. Hunted? When has heaven ever given me a choice? I sacrificed myself once for Chentang Pass, and what did I get in return? Condemnation. Betrayal. Before his brothers could answer, a deep war drum echoed through the sky. From beyond the clouds, a massive army of celestial soldiers descended, their weapons glinting under the divine light. At the head of the formation stood a lone warrior, tall, composed, his third eye glowing faintly on his forehead. Erlang Shen, Yang Jian. His voice was steady, unshaken. Nezha, surrender now. This is your final warning. Nezha exhaled, rolling his shoulders. His spear twirled in his hand, flames flickering along its edge. 100,000 soldiers? He smirked. Good, I was getting bored. The battle was about to begin. The battlefield fell into silence. The storm of heaven's final judgment had struck directly, swallowing Nezha whole. Smoke and dust filled the sky, and the celestial army stood frozen, waiting for the dust to settle. Yang Jian held his blade tightly, his third eye scanning the battlefield for any sign of life. Was it over? Then, the ground shook. A low, eerie hum vibrated through the air. The sky, once bright with divine power, suddenly darkened. The clouds twisted unnaturally, the golden light of heaven flickered, and a chilling force spread across the battlefield. Then it appeared, a black lotus blooming in midair. Its petals pulsed with an unnatural energy, radiating an eerie, demonic aura that devoured the very essence of heaven itself. From its center, a deep, chilling laughter echoed. Ha 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 ha! The heavens? The voice was familiar, yet changed. A figure slowly rose from within the black flames, his form now twisted by an overwhelming power. Nezha had returned, but he was no longer the warrior they knew. His fire-tipped spear burned black with corrupted energy. His flaming wheels were no longer golden, but glowing with an eerie blue fire. The red silk ribbon, once flowing like water, now writhed like a living shadow, crackling with dark lightning. And his eyes, they were no longer the fierce, determined eyes of a young warrior. They had turned golden black, reflecting only one thing: destruction. Yang Jian's heart sank. Nezha, you've fallen? Nezha smirked, his voice dripping with newfound power. Fallen? He turned his spear, letting its dark energy pulse through the air. No, Yang Jian. I have finally been freed. Then, with a flick of his wrist, the battlefield erupted. The black flames surrounding him expanded outward in a massive shockwave, ripping through the celestial army. Thousands of warriors screamed as their bodies disintegrated into ashes, their divine armor melting away like wax in a fire. The four heavenly kings barely had time to react before the demonic force slammed into them, sending them hurtling through the sky. One of them, the Eastern King, let out a choked gasp. Before he could even move, Nezha's spear had already pierced through his chest. The golden armor shattered, the divine light in his eyes faded, and just like that, one of the 4 heavenly kings was dead. The heavens trembled. Even Yang Jian took a step back. For the first time in centuries, heaven itself felt fear. Nezha twirled his spear lazily, his voice mocking. "Who's next?" Yang Jian's grip tightened around his blade. The battle was far from over, but now they were no longer fighting a warrior. They were fighting a demon. The sky burned black. Heaven itself trembled beneath the overwhelming force radiating from Nezha. His fire-tipped spear crackled with dark lightning. His flaming wheels spun with eerie blue flames, and his red silk ribbon twisted like a living shadow. The celestial army stood frozen. No one dared move. This was no longer the Nezha they had once known. Heaven had tried to destroy him. Instead, it had created a monster. Then, a golden light broke through the darkness. A warm, divine glow bathed the battlefield, and a deep, resonant voice echoed across the heavens. "Nezha, your anger blinds you." A massive golden figure descended from the sky, radiating peace and wisdom. Clad in flowing robes, his 1,000 hands extended with boundless compassion. Buddha himself had arrived. Nezha's smirk didn't fade. "What, even the Buddha has come to stop me now?" Buddha gazed at him with gentle eyes. "Not to stop you, but to awaken you." Nezha laughed. "Awaken me? I am already free." Without another word, he lunged forward, his spear striking with the force of 1,000 storms. Buddha raised a single hand, and the world stopped. Nezha's spear froze in place, inches from Buddha's palm. Time itself seemed to hold its breath. And in that silence, a voice called out. A voice Nezha knew. "Nezha, please stop." His breath caught in his throat. Suddenly, the battlefield shifted, fading into a swirl of memories. He saw his mother smiling gently, calling his name. He saw his brother standing at Chentang Pass, watching him leave. He saw his master, Taiyi Zhenren, sighing with deep sorrow. And for the first time, he saw himself. Not as a warrior, not as a demon, but as a child. Laughing, running barefoot through his home, innocent and free. Nezha's hands trembled. The overwhelming rage that had consumed him began to flicker like a candle in the wind. Was this what he had lost? His grip on his spear loosened. The flames around him dimmed. His eyes, once dark with vengeance, flickered with something else. Regret. Pain. Realization. He whispered, voice hoarse, I didn't want this." Buddha nodded. "Then let go." Nezha closed his eyes, and with a final, shuddering breath, he let go. The black flames vanished, the sky cleared, and Nezha, for the first time in his life, felt light. The battlefield was silent as Nezha knelt on the clouds, his body weary, his mind finally at peace. Above, the Jade Emperor looked down, his expression unreadable. Then he spoke. "Nezha has atoned for his actions. He shall not be destroyed." A pause. "Instead, he shall be given a purpose." The decree shook the heavens. From this day forth, Nezha shall serve as the great marshal of the heavenly army, protecting the 3 realms. The gods bowed in acknowledgement. Nezha slowly stood. He turned to see his master, Taiyi Zhenren, watching him with quiet approval. His brothers, Jinja and Muzha, nodded in silent understanding. Even Yang Jian, his old rival, met his gaze with newfound respect. Nezha sighed. "Looks like I won't be escaping heaven after all." Taiyi Zhenren smiled. "No, but this time, you'll walk your own path." Nezha smirked, rolling his shoulders. "Yeah, my own path." Days later, Nezha stood at the gates of the celestial palace, gazing at the endless sky before him. His hands still ached for battle, his heart still burned with fire. He had been given a title, a duty, a purpose. But that didn't mean he had changed completely. The gods might have given him a role. but his fate was still his own. Smirking, he tapped his fire-tipped spear against his palm. Let's see how long I last in heaven before causing trouble again. With that, he stepped forward into a new legend. The story of Nezha was far from over. It was only just beginning.